What's going on, you guys? My name is Russell and you're watching The Bible Man. If you're new to this channel and like the content I make here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on all notifications for any future updates here on my channel. And if you feel like supporting me in any way, shape, or form, you're welcome to go ahead and do so. Links are in the description box below. There you can support me on Patreon. The title of this video is called 5 Biblical Things That Women Do Who All Guys Want. We're going to be in the book of Ruth. One biblical passage that details the qualification a man wants in his future wife is in Ruth. As we read this chapter together, we will create 5 principles that we can apply to this topic and how to prepare a great relationship in your future husband. So, before I start, if you are a single woman and you're seeking a relationship or a future husband, I think it's vitally important to prepare yourself while you're single and enjoying your days of singleness. If you are trying to find somebody, it's important to surround yourself around people who already have what you want. If you're seeking marriage, surround yourself around people who are God-believing and God-fearing people who already have what you want. If you're seeking to be a mother, surround yourself around mothers who already have what you want. It's important to practice these principles now so when you get what you want in the future, you already have an idea on how to maintain and keep the thing that you were searching for. Give me a second. I'm reading through my notes. Therefore, so I'm going to read a passage. If I skip over a couple of names, it's my bad. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the book of Ruth, open up the book of Ruth, go to chapter 1 and highlight verses 1 through 5. Always open up the Bible yourself. Always read the Bible yourself to see if I'm actually being a false teacher. So go to the book of Ruth. I'll wait a couple of seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, good. You're there? Alright, we're going in. Bear in mind, there's some of these words I can't read, so if I skip over a few names, that's my bad. So one passage that details the qualifications a man wants in a relationship or in his future wife is in Ruth chapter 1. As we read this character together, we create 5 principles that we can apply to this topic and how to prepare for a great relationship with your future husband. In the passage of Ruth chapter 1 verses 1 through 5, in the days of the judges that ruled, there was a famine in the land, and there was a man of Bethlehem in Judea near Sojourn in the country of Moab, and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of a man was blank, and the name of his wife Naomi, and Naomi and his name of his 2 sons were blank and blank. They were blank from Bethlehem and Judea. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But blank, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left there with her 2 sons. And these 2 Moabites wives, the name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both blank and blank died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons or their husbands. So in other words, Naomi's husband died, Ruth's husband died, and Orpah's husband died. So they were left as widows. Principle: learn from women who already have what you want. Ruth was a Moabite woman, which means she grew up in an extremely wicked environment. Everywhere she looked, she was surrounded by every other man and woman who were worshiping false gods. Jeremiah 48:29 states, "We have heard from the pride of Moab. He was a very prideful man of loftiness, and his pride of arrogance and loftiness and haughtiness of his heart." Therefore, Ruth must have noticed something different about Naomi. Therefore, Naomi lost her husband and her 2 sons. Something about her was extremely attractive to Ruth. Why else would she commit herself to Naomi passionately? So Naomi was in a situation where she lost her husband. Ruth lost hers and Orpah lost hers. So Naomi was clinging to Naomi because she saw something in Naomi that made her wanted to stay with her. So that's vitally important to understand, because that prepared Naomi for the future. Her loyalty to Naomi gave her the skills necessary for the future. So it's important to practice loyalty while you have the time to do so before you jump into a relationship, because loyalty is extremely important. As you read, you will see by reading about what happens between Ruth and Boaz in chapter 3 of Ruth, verses 4. Naomi consoles was very give me a second, my throat's messing up. Naomi's console was very encouraging. I'm just going to use that word, encouraging. Without Naomi in Ruth's life, she would have ended up like every other Moabite woman. So she helped Naomi grow, and she helped Naomi where she was in life, and she was like a mentor. But more than that, Naomi was Ruth's mother-in-law. But she saw something attractive in Naomi that made her want to cling to her. Likewise, if you want to avoid ending up like women you see all around you, women who are preaching self-sufficiently while simultaneously crying about their loneliness, and are sleeping around and before marriage, while also wanting to be in a committed relationship with a man, and is sad later in life, and want kids, women who are disrespectful towards men but want a man to cherish them and love them and care about them. Learn from women who already have what you want one day. In other words, let me put this in a better way. Remove the mindset you have about trying to be independent and self-sufficient. Don't put yourself in a mindset where abortion's okay, or don't believe the fairy tale lie, the lie from the pit of hell that you could focus on yourself now and find somebody later. Don't tell yourself the lie from the pit of hell that it's okay if I focus on my career, or I can enjoy the best days of my life now and not feel sad and lonely later in life. If God places a man in your life and a woman in your life, and the man tries to pursue you and the woman's interested in pursuing back, but something happens that pulls it away because of something either one of them decides, because it's about worldly issues, it's not God's fault. It's one of their that's one of their issues that made the relationship fall apart. In other words, don't allow the worldly issues determine if you are ready for a relationship or not. Self-sufficiency, independency, abortion, these are things that are going to hold you back from finding marriage. And these things will also keep you alone and away from having kids or the gift of God that God has for marriage. But I'll read it one more time. Likewise, if you want to avoid ending up like women you see all around you, women who are preaching self-sufficiency and independent, self-sufficiency and being independent, while simultaneously crying about being lonely and loneliness, women who are sleeping around before marriage while also wanting a committed man in their life and marriage, women who have abortions and then become sad later in life that they have no children, women who are disrespectful towards men but want to cherish them, then you need to learn from women who already have what you want and what you want one day. You need to learn to be loyal. You need to learn to surround yourself around people that have what you already have, what you want, and been down that road that you're seeking. You need to learn to be there for your friends that are going through a tough time, going through hard times. You need to learn to be there for them and console them and comfort them in good times and in hard times. Learn to deal with the inner conflict you're dealing with inside yourself. If somebody is sad, learn to approach that person and comfort them and be there for them. Learn to have open communication and learn to have the ability to forgive, forget, and move on and reconcile. The ability to have open communication about open issues and comfort your friends in hard times is a sign that you are ready for marriage. If you are unable to do this now and you're not going to make this a practice at all going down the road, you're not going to ever be ready for a long-term relationship or marriage in the future. Open communication, affection, being empathetic about other people's situations. What that means is putting yourself in other people's shoes and trying to be understanding of their situation and their background and trying to come up with a solution to make them feel better or just understand them and just be a shoulder for them to cry on. These are things we need to work on now and practice now so we may be ready in the future when we find the one God has for us. If you want a godly husband to spend time with a woman who have a godly husband, you want to be a loving mother. Let me back up. If you want a godly husband, spend time with women who have a godly husband. If you want to be a loving mother one day, spend time with mothers right now. If you want to be a Proverbs 31 woman, learn from Proverbs 31 women. Modern women who don't have what you want aren't going to be able to help you or develop you into a godly wife. In other words, if people who are living in the world, modern women specifically, if you're going to them for advice, if you're going to them for counsel, if you're going to them for dating advice or anything of that sort, who don't have a biblical, godly understanding about marriage, you're only going to end up hurting yourself and living a life of loneliness and failure. And you're never going to find a partner or a relationship. Learn to surround yourself around those kinds of people. In passage 2, Ruth chapter 1 verse 6 through 14, she arose with her daughters-in-law and she returned from the country of Moab. She had heard from the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited the people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way and returned to the land of Judea. But Naomi and her mother's house, may the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with me and the dead with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of each of her husbands. Then she kissed them, and then they left, and their voices wept. And then they said to her, "No, we will return with you and your people. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb? She's saying, have I not yet had sons? Why should you come with me? I don't have any sons for you to marry. I don't have any sons for you to enjoy your life with. Why choose me? Have I yet sons in my womb, and that you may become your husband? Turn back, my daughters. Go your own way, for I am too old to have a husband. This night and should bear sons. Would you therefore, if I were to bear sons this night, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, that's ridiculous. Why would she choose? Why would they choose to marry somebody but wait 19, 20, 25 years to do that? That doesn't... Naomi's making a very good point. No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone against me. Then they lift up their voices and wept again. And then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. Principle: choose the best spiritual path, even if it's not the easiest path. Sometimes when we want to find the one God has for us, we gotta choose the best spiritual path. Sometimes the best spiritual path isn't always the easiest path. Sometimes we gotta take hard paths in order to get the path God has in store for us. Like Jesus said, the way to heaven is narrow and short, but the way to hell is wide and broad. Sometimes in life, if we want to find a godly spouse, we gotta choose the narrow path rather than the broad path. And that was something Naomi said to both Orpah and Ruth. Go back to your family. Ruth chose to stay with Naomi, while Orpah went back. So one thing, again, I should bring up is learning to practice loyalty. Choose the best spiritual path even when it's not even the easiest path or the best path for you, or not even the earthly path. After all the men in her family died and Naomi decided to return to Bethlehem, she told her daughters-in-law that it would be better for them to stay in Moab, and her warning to her daughters-in-laws were true. It would have been better for her daughters to stay in Moab. It's their nation, it's Moab, they're Moabites. They would have no reason to discriminate or to hurt her. They had family there, they had food, they had rest. What reason would they have to go with Naomi to a foreign land that knows nothing about them? Orpah stayed, and Orpah stayed, and Ruth went with Naomi. The warning was true. It would be better for them to stay in Moab. And her warning to her daughters-in-law were true. It made no earthly sense for them to stay with her and leave their homeland, being a widow. Remember, both Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth are widows. Being a widow, it would be hard enough being a widow from a foreign land and surrounded by people who have no nationality or alliance to help you, is surrounded by people who have no nationality or an alliance to help you is much harder. At least in Moab, these women had family who could help them and provide for them. By going to Bethlehem, they would be making their bad situation even worse. So I'm going to add this to it. When searching for your wife, this is a perfect example. They had the option to live the easy life, but they went to a land which they had no idea about. You know how much faith that takes? Sometimes when we find the one, we gotta act on faith. We gotta have faith that things are going to work out. We gotta have faith that things are just going to come together. We gotta have faith that things are just going to, all the pieces on the table are going to come together and work out the way God has in store for it. But notice when it says in Ruth chapter 1 verse 14, but Ruth cleaved to her, and Orpah made the wise decision by earthly standards, but Ruth made the right decision by spiritual standards. She left that the goddess nation, the godliest nation, and chose to follow the true one God, the God of Israel. Ruth was making a spiritual decision before she even met Boaz. So another point, learn to make spiritual decisions. Learn to make wise and smart decisions before you find the one. That's very important to understand. Ruth was making good spiritual decisions and good spiritual choices before she even met Boaz. It's not realistic to wait to become godly only once you met a godly man. First off, a godly man will want a woman who's already living like he is in Ruth chapter 2 verses 11 to 12. Secondly, spiritual maturity takes time to develop. If you start choosing the best spiritual path now, even when it's not the easiest path, you will be prepared for a spiritual healthy and mature marriage one day. Point number 3. Ruth chapter 1 verses 15 to 18. And she said, see, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods and returned after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For you I will go, and where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do to me as he do to you also. If anything but death parts from me. And then Naomi said that she was determined. And then Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, and she said no more. So from that passage, I want you to understand, learn to be loyal before you have a husband to be loyal to. Eventually, Ruth became Boaz's loyal wife. But before she did, she developed her loyalty through others of her life. Loyalty is not something you are born with. Loyalty is something you have to develop. Ruth was determined, and she was a very determined woman. In Ruth chapter 1 verses 1 through 18, and the trials later benefit her once she met Boaz. There is nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who is loyal to him. In Ruth chapter 3 verses 10, to a loyal woman means to reject other men and to keep by you and to keep you and to support you. This man, I'll put it like this. To be loyal to a man is to support you, to be there for you, to be by your side in good times and hard times. There's nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who is loyal to him and him alone. Yes, there's nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who is loyal to him and him alone. To be a loyal woman, you must be able to reject other men and keep supporting this one man. Even when he is going through hard times, you have to go through his poor seasons and his seasons of wealth. You have to stay faithful even in his mental health. It is bad and when it is good. through loyalty, you get to experience his losses and his victories. If you do this for him, he will love you with all his heart. These are qualities and applications you women can apply to grow, but also work on your marriage, but also prepare yourself for a future husband one day. If you want a godly husband to love you with all of his heart, you have to be loyal in return. You have to be a loyal woman. I think that's a very important quality. Sadly, there's not a lot of women in today's age that are loyal. They view men as disposable and replaceable. We got the self-sufficient movement, the independent movement. A lot of women just have fallen from the grace and don't understand the biblical concept of marriage. And that's kind of sad. And point 4, Ruth chapter 1 verses 19 to 21. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And then they came to Bethlehem. The whole town was staring because of them. And the woman said, "It is Naomi." She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitter with me. I went away full, and now the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" Principle: let God transform you through the pain you go through. Application: pain will always change you. It can change you into a worse version of yourself, or it can change you into a better version of yourself. I'll repeat. Pain can change you into a worse version of yourself or a better version of yourself. But it will change you. It will follow God through the pain. If you follow God through the pain, He will use the pain to transform you into a more better and more perfect image that God has, that He wants you to be. While this passage is talking about Naomi, it is clear that Ruth has gone through immense pain too. She lost her husband and she lost her home, and now she was a stranger to a land without any idea of how she would survive. Like Naomi, Ruth was suffering, but Naomi didn't stay in bitterness or a place forever. Actually, God used the pain to bring her even more joy. And then she had originally lost Ruth. In Ruth chapter 4 verses 14 through 17, likewise, Ruth had gone through something extremely terrible before getting to experience something even better. Pain will change you. How it will change you depends on how you respond to the pain you receive. Will you adapt and grow from the pain, or will you learn from the pain, or will you decide to ignore it and live in guilt and pity from the pain you face? I think that's an important point. When we go through pain and suffering, we oftentimes grow from it, but there are those occasions where we don't grow from it at all. So before I go, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is just part 1. I'm going to try to fit part 2 into the next video. If you want to see the rest of this video, please watch part 2 to this video. I really appreciate it if you did. My name is Russell, and you're watching The Bible Man.